barring any changes, future viewer and or
Redditor
Jones who wants to pipe up in hindsight. This is a title contending team and a top 5 team in the world. Just is.
Any hindsight pipers?
I would put a slight premium on Jinmu in particular. I think he fills what I guess we will end up calling the funny hero category. That I think a game like Overwatch 2 and everything that we're hearing about it, especially in the orbiting rumor mill of the Scrimbucks NFT fiat currency exchange.
Well, you can get Scrimbucks as NFTs now.
Hey,
Yeah.
you might be able to.
No, that's coming. That's coming, 100%. I'm minting.
Unfungible Scrimbucks.
No.
Yeah.
What have we done?
Having to get past Chengdu this year, obviously pending on what the team looks like. So why don't we talk about the team a little bit now? Well, let's head over to the actual team preview. If you've just clicked on the timestamp and you're just like, oh, I just want to see the team preview, you're probably confused about what's going on right now. But we, again, just to reiterate, we will not be incorporating the whole team implosion factor into the preview because there's no way to actually quantify that.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you quantify that? It could literally be 0 of the current players or all 9 of them, 8 of them rather. Who knows? So we might as well just pretend they're all going to be there and just see what happens. All right, Chengdu Hunters, 2022. I was going to say they're looking like a top 3 team, current MVP, fill in the gaps with a Pritter as well. Just initial thoughts so far on this team before we head into the specifics of the roles. Anybody got some opening thoughts? Widely, macro?
Just in general, kind of an overarching summary. Barring any changes, future viewer and or
Redditor
Jones who wants to pipe up in hindsight. This is a title contending team and a top 5 team in the world. Just is.
Any hindsight pipers?
How much
sure
of this shit's gonna get
somebody from a month from now was like, oh, Joe, yes, Volamel said it was gonna be a top contending team. They don't even have leave anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like fucking.
Like, yeah, whoops, my bad, dude. Sorry, I couldn't get to the future for me. You know, that's my bad. That's
future me is holding that L. Just know that.
Joe's right though. No, man, he's right. This is a top 5 team in the world. I think I have them when we did our power rankings a little bit earlier. I think I have them directly at 5th. Like they are the 5th best team, I think, in the world at the current moment. Second in APAC, only behind Shanghai. From top to bottom, like you look at this team, especially after the way they performed last year, not really losing too much. The big thing that hurts this team, and then I would personally put them a little bit higher if they still had Ray as their coach, but he's not there. So I think I would imagine that they're going to do committee with Creed and Yaoshi would be how I would see that going. I like that Creed is still here because Creed, like I said, is kind of the understudy of, you know, Ray in that old miraculous youngster style. He's the one who's always with him when they were at World Cup doing well. Yaoshi is someone who I think as a coach, I'm not sure necessarily what they do as a coach. They did have some success at Flag Gaming, but I don't think compared to like Creed and Ray, it's the same type of deal.
It's okay. Most people don't know what coaches do at the best times.
Yeah. So I think that this team is very good this season again, especially with DPS potentially being like very impactful. You have the MVP. Like, what more do you want at this point? I think he's the best DPS in the world at the current moment, and I don't see anyone else really that you would pick above Leave if you wanted to like build a roster. Like, I think he's like overall, if you put him on like tell me like there's like someone who could play like literally everything, I'd say it's Leave, and he could play it at an extremely high level. You
said what more could you want? You already have the MVP. What more could be? Let's have the MVP and the Rookie of the Year on the same team.
True, right?
That would be more. That would be more.
And I don't think we're like that too far off. And like you talk about wanting more from an MVP, Yiska, and I'm gonna toss this right to you. But like, is it nuts to think about Leave having a better season this season potentially than he did last season? I don't think it's that out of like left field or like that's like too far fetched to say that like Leave this season, barring any changes, will have a better season statistically and like eye performance, eye test, whatever the fuck you want to call it. He's in the driver's seat to have a better season than he did in 2021. Just is.
I'm not so sure about that. Simply because like the race situation gives me some question marks there. Also, yeah, the thing is like it's very hard to remain hot 2 years in a row. I think it's also just in the context of everything. Like in my mind, when you like when Kenobi said like, is there a player you'd rather like build a team around? Currently in the transfer market, I guess we have to like think about that. But yeah, like definitely like Lip and Flatter just because they can speak Korean, right?
Korean.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, but like if like just from the mechanics alone, like in a perfect world where everyone could speak the same language and could communicate,
right.
I don't think that there's literally anyone else that you pick
equal.
up the lead at the current moment.
Yeah, equal maybe, but not.
Not even equal. I don't even think equal.
I
think it's a clear cut decision that Leave is the best. Like I think like Kevster is someone else who like potentially is in a conversation for like after that, but it's like it's very clearly Leave is the best DPS in the world at the current moment based on what we saw last. Whether
Why not
that
Lip,
like
though?
continues going into. Well, I mean, what about Lip?
What
about him?
I like that.
I mean, are we going to
Like,
check the fact that the MVP vote as like an indication of
Brother man,
future?
you're not going populist, are you?
No.
Please. I know we just did the Twitter video. I know you just won the draft. Please, God, Jesus.
Wait, that I'm literally going anti-populist.
Okay.
I'm deciding against the masses that voted Leave because AVRL is the Overwatch community Pied Piper.
I think Lip's good, but like a person to build around.
Dude, Leave can. I think people don't understand this about Leave is that Leave can play literally everything under the sun at a high level.
Yes,
like
and
literally
he's done that
everything,
for
and he's
years.
done it consistently after doing a break and going to PUBG.
Yeah,
I think this kid is fucking so good at this game.
First point. I'm so proud of you, Kenobi. I've converted you so effectively. Second thing.
What do you mean converted? Brother man. Do you know who you're talking to right now? Do you know who you're talking to?
A convert.
The best part about Yiska, the best part about being converted is you don't even know or think you are converted. That's like the highest level of indoctrination.
There you go. That's an accolade.
I decided on this. It's my original idea. That's the highest level of conversion.
Okay, so when Shy wins MVP this year, I'm going to say the same thing.
No shot, by the way.
Spark would have to be so good. Spark would have to be so good for Shy to do that.
Actually,
anyway, the second point, I do agree that Leave is outstanding enough. He's like the kind of jack of all trades, master of all kind of player that is so easy to build a team around from a utility standpoint, because once you have someone like that can just fill any role, then you can start looking at specialists. Then you can start looking to build around. I think Lip to me is still pretty specialist for the most part. He's probably got a wider hero pool than a lot of other hit scans, just because the extra Sombra tracer in there is important. And the reason why I say, and most people are like, well, isn't that normal for hit scan? You'd think it would be, but you'd be surprised at how few hit scans actually play an effective tracer and or Sombra.
Yep.
And there's very few people that can play good Sombras. So, I mean, it also depends on what is going to meta. Like Tracer's a fair chance that she ends up being meta at all points just because she's good. Sombra is a niche enough hero that she comes and goes. It really depends. So, and they've changed Sombra enough in Overwatch 2 that it's very difficult to tell where her place in the meta could be. I think it's like she seems like she could be good. Like, oh, everyone said she was broken in the Overwatch League preview in the finals, but you know, patch changes can make her viable or less viable, blah blah blah, at any given point. So she's a very influx type of hero. I would never bank on like we need an elite Sombra player. Because you're how likely is it you're going to get a Sombra meta? Yeah. In all fairness to Shanghai, they rolled pretty good dice in terms of meta RNG to get a Sombra meta. I'm not saying that's the only reason they won, but obviously it helps a lot. It helps a lot because if it was a Ryan meta instead, who knows? Maybe Atlanta or Dallas could have been the better team. I'm just saying meta does play a big role, and they did happen to have the best Sombra player in the world on their team for a very specific Sombra meta, of which we haven't had a lot of Sombra metas. So you can't bank on like we got to get lit for the Sombra meta. It's like, do you even know when a Sombra meta is going to come through? Like it's so hard to tell. As a GM, that's not something you want to bank on.
The thing is,
but if you're rich, you just have him on your team anyway. What's your thing?
Like I don't think like the reason Lip isn't considered a hyperflex is because he doesn't have to be. Like he once again, like I feel like everyone like. And that's true for Leaf as well. Everyone sort of does shit that everyone else does. That's not true for Lip, bro. Like, his Sombra is very clearly above everyone else. Like, usually, like, for instance, in the Tracer discussion, right? Which Leaf is definitely one of the best of. He's not, like, if you think he's the best Tracer, he's not far away from everyone else, bro. Like, and not everyone else, but the top Tracers, you know? Mm-hmm. By the way, I'm not convinced that if Lip was going to play Tracer the entire time, he couldn't do the same to Tracer than to everything else, because stats indicate based on the 2 hours that he is actually astronomically better than everyone else.
I have a little reservation for that because I need to see more stats. I can't just be like, you can't just be a 2 hour 10 or a 10-minute Andy on one hero.
2 hour Andy.
I don't think it was 2 hours, was it? It was less than that. I don't know. It was not a lot of time.
Eric, check.
Your stats even out. And also here's the other thing. This is a bit of a chicken and egg scenario, but it's like how much of farming good stats is because you're also on a good team that's just winning because you're better teammates as well.
Sure.
Now the chicken and egg situation there is, well, the team also could be winning because you are good. You are what makes your team win, right? So there is a bit of a two ways to kind of look at that. The reason why the stats are more convincing for Leave is because you know that his team would be bad without him. You know that would be true. Whereas you replace Lip, who knows? Shanghai, with another great hit scam, you'd definitely be lacking in the Sombra department, but I don't think Shanghai would be hurting an insane amount in comparison. Well, this is not going to be a Shanghai versus Chengdu discussion. We're like getting a little bit sidetracked here.
Yeah.
But trying to come back on the rails a little bit. Essentially where we're headed is, to finish off, actually, I'll just say one thing. We'd probably be having a very similar discussion about Sparkle if we just came out of a Doom meta. If we just came out of a Doom meta, you could say, yeah, his Doom is just like way above everyone else. I mean, it's true, but we didn't get a Doom meta, so who fucking cares? It's like, and if we don't get a Sombra meta, who fucking cares? I don't care that he has a better Sombra than everyone if we don't have a Sombra meta. Because heroes like that, it's rare to see them in meta. Very rare. So, but if you get a Doomfist meta, well done. Dallas just win. Give them the fucking trophy. It's finished, right? Heading back to Chengdu, back to Leave. Great player to build around. If you lose him, well, it's just a Pritter and Jimmy. So let's talk about the DPS line as a trio. We don't have Jimmy anymore. We don't have Taro Cookie anymore. And we are on probably this 3-player lineup for me is better than that 4-player lineup they had before.
Easily.
Where it was just messy. I don't even know what was going on there. They added Taro Cookie partway through. I don't even know what he was there to do.
Kenobi was on there too at one point.
Was he? Yeah, there was that. So that 5-player DPS lineup that they had was just not great. Pritter kind of does everything Taro Cookie, Jimmy, and Kenobi does together all in one person.
Yeah.
So
does them better.
Yep.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh.
You have Leave who's Leave, and then you have Jinmu who on his very specific heroes dominates pretty hard. And he still needs to really. The Sombra's good. It's just I don't know. When Chengdu were really popping off, I thought his Sombra was insane, but I don't know. They obviously had issues towards the end. So
this is a lineup in terms of their DPS where it's like Pritta, I think, is Rookie of the Year candidate. Won't win because there's that other Rookie of the Year that's coming in that's probably going to very easily take it. But like in a world where Proper doesn't get into like Overwatch League, I think Pritta is definitely probably
second
front runner.
Yeah,
I think second for Rookie of the Year. I think the dude is fucking cracked out of his skull. He's won 3 finals in a row in Chinese Contenders, 3 finals MVPs in a row, and it's been on various different things. Like the problem that I had with the Pritta going into this season this year rather, when it was Team Chaser, was I was like, okay, the Tracer's sick nasty. You've beaten Team CC, the best team in Contenders in Tier 2. You beat them with your Tracer because it was that good, and you were like just nuts. So like, what can you do beyond that? Okay, so he comes out. It's still relatively a Tracer meta at the start of 2021. Team Chaser they're doing okay. Like they're not farming too heavily, and then the meta switches a little bit towards like I think Reaper started to become like a thing that they needed to play, like stuff like that. There was like Ashe, there was Cassidy, things like that were starting to come into play, and then Aprita plays those and plays them really, really well. And I think that he's gone from a player who was just a Tracer one trick to someone who is still extremely good at the Tracer. Like, don't get me wrong, I think his Tracer is, I don't know if it's better than, it's not better than, so I'm not go for that, but like it's up there. It's definitely up there.
Sure.
It's comparable to that. I think his Cassidy and his long range hit scan have gotten much, much better since the time that when he started playing. And he also has some like wrinkles that all the Chinese DPS players seem to have, where it's like there's just that one other hero that they can play really. So like it's like a not even a hit scan, like a flex or a projectile. So if like this is a player that if like comboed along with Leave, I think this is one of, if not the best DPS duo that's in the world between these two players.
How about just as a line? Let's talk, bring in the whole line here.
So the line, the problem with the line is that Jinmu has I would say two that he's like probably can be considered top 10 in the world at, if not just top 1. I think his Pharah is still probably potentially the best in the world.
Yeah.
And his Genji, while it's very fast and loose, and Joe remembers from Moss 7 Club how much we flamed him for this, but he can play a pretty gosh darn nasty Genji. So if they hit the lotto with like Jinmu's specific heroes, I think this DPS line easily top 3 in the world. If you kind of just like go overall, I think it's for sure top 5 because of the fact that I think Jinmu is pigeonholed slightly with the heroes that he can play. Because it's like, it's really good if it's those two heroes like the Pharah and the Genji. If it's not those, Jinmu loses a little bit of his potency, I think, in the DPS role.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I would put a slight premium on Jinmu in particular. I think he fills what I guess we will end up calling the funny hero category. That I think a game like Overwatch 2 and everything that we're hearing about it, especially in the orbiting rumor mill of the Scrimbucks NFT fiat currency exchange.
Well, you can get Scrimbucks as NFTs now?
Hey, you might be able to.
No, that's coming. That's coming, 100%. I'm minting.
Non-fungible Scrimbucks.
No.
Yeah.
What have we done? We put
my Scrimbucks to own for me.
The metaverse is wild right now, by the way.
True.
Okay, we're not talking about that. That's a 2-hour discussion that Yiska is not allowed to start.
True. It's just going to end up with him having sex with robots, so it's okay.
Continue your point, Joe.
Anyways, Jinmu plays the funny heroes, and shut up. He plays funny heroes, and with how fluid Overwatch 2 could be, I think that's going to be useful, let's say. And yeah, I
fills the gaps
easily. Yeah, does a lot. It has a very poignant hero pool. Is a good gap filler.
The thing is, though, I mean, it's a gap filler to an extent, but like you have Leave on, so there's really are no gaps don't exist.
No, there are gaps.
There are gaps. We saw that last year.
Yes,
no, there's
because
a Sombra gap. Right.
No.
There's just another player gap.
It's not a gap in what Leave doesn't play. It's the fact that Leave can only play one of them and somebody else has to play the fucking other one.
True.
That's the problem, which is why Aprita on this team is important, because you now finally have a second Tracer. Because between Jimmy, Tarakuki, and Kaneki and Jinmu, there was not a second Tracer. So Leave had to. You want Leave to be your Tracer play for one. Yep. But also, if Leave plays a Tracer, then no one can play your Echo. No one can play your I guess I guess Jinmu can play against you. No one can play your X other hero that you need. Your second hero that you need.
Yeah.
And so what end up happening is you have these kind of situations where what were some of the situations we had? I mean, last year
I know Jinmu had to play Torb at a couple of points when it wasn't like really that. I think that was like specifically a Chengdu thing that I would a lot.
I remember him playing Torb. I do remember that as well.
The Jinmu Sombra was like the main one that they brought out a lot, which was like towards the start was pretty not great.
To be fair, it was a Tracer Sombra meta, so they did nail that. So in that regard, I think they did well. But there were actually a few points where, as far as we say Jinmu's a fill the gap kind of player, there were a few moments last year that I specifically remember where Leave actually played around Jinmu and not the other way around. And those were specifically the fire maps that Chengdu really wanted to pocket hard the fire. Fire is a win condition. And in that case, Leave was not their acing the whole player. For that, it was actually Jinmu, and Leave kind of played his hero pool, very flexible, obviously, around Jinmu and did things for the team that benefited the team around what Jinmu was doing primarily, instead of the other way around. That was one of the few times you see that.
Mm-hmm. The beauty of having a flexible player like that. It's a good thing to have.
That's the Leave Sombra, by the way. A few times I saw him get off Trace and go into Sombra, just to be a very low maintenance kind of player, low resource kind of player, so that Jinmu could just get everything. So there was that. Let's talk about the tank line. It's just one player.
Can I really quickly just comment on, like, does anyone also have this feeling of just like they are dopamine receptors in terms of like cracked DPS lines just being like very tired this season? Like, I'm looking across the league, and yes, in my mind, like, of course, Leaf, Apritta, Jinmu are nuts. And in every other season, my mind would go like, whoa, bro, that's like 10, 15% better than like 90% of the league, right? Now I'm looking at these DPS lines, and I'm like, I'm dopamine overdosing. Everyone is cracked now. What is happening?
Yeah.
It's because season 1 set the expectations so low, set the bar so low that now, like, we look at this like, oh my god, you're like a kid in a candy store and everyone's got good DPS. But that's how it's supposed to be. That's what it should have been from day one. You know, it's supposed to be the world's best players here. Like,
what
the fuck is the situation? How can there be any team that doesn't have good players? Is what it should be in theory. But that's how it has been in the past.
Just in your go into your mind palace, okay? And now we're once again in season 1, okay?
Yep. Hello, Clockwork.
And now imagine if the expansion teams were already there, and the DPS line that is playing against, like, you know, Lynxes, one of the best DPS at the time, you know? Now imagine the DPS line of Develop, Choice1, and Eileen. What they would be doing to everyone but, like, Birdring and Prophet, right? Like, and that is probably one of the, you know, less proficient DPS lines in the league, right? In terms of APAC specifically, right? Like, it is actually insane what the level is, right? Like, I guess you would have to say, and we're getting to them, but like Dia, Innovation, Becky, or like, but even then Exy's in there, right? Like, shit's nuts, yo. Like this year, and if it is actually as DPS dominant, bro, especially Hitscan, that shit is fucking like top of the line now. Nobody sucks anymore.
Yep.
Finally. We can generally, not just the DPS line, we can generally say that about every single team upgrading, which is what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be, when you have the top level professional league, everyone's supposed to be good.
Yeah, but, I mean, but like you don't have Silver 3's Genji anymore, so like what's the point of playing?
So speaking of the tank line, speaking of tanks, Gaga, the solo tank. Now, I think the understanding here is, and again, reiterate, very hard to talk about the whole roster implosion situation, but I'm fairly sure connecting the dots here in I'm still in my mind palace currently, Yiska, is that they obviously haven't signed another tank player because they're trying to cull players. They're not trying to sign more. They're trying to get rid of players, right, in terms of money. That's why they don't have a second tank player. So we're just going to assume it will remain one tank. It's only Gaga. He's going to play everything, including the off tanks, and whatever new tanks come out, and he's just going to do it all.
I think there is a world where he doesn't play the Zarya. I think Leave plays Zarya. There is a world.
Oh, they do.
Bro, if Leave has to play the Zarya, then Jinmu and Apritta have to play whatever else the DPS needs.
Yeah.
And I promise you right now, no, it's not fine, because I can tell you right now, no matter what meta it is, you want your best DPS play on the DPS and not on the tank.
I think I think if you want, because I don't think Gaga's going to be that great at Zarya. If it's a meta where you can play Tracer and you need like Zarya with it, and it's like Tracer, Genji, Zarya, and you need, like, I think Apritta can fill that gap. I think that putting Gaga onto Zarya, if he's like really not performing, I think there is a very good chance that Leave just goes and plays Zarya, which he's actually very good at.
I'm sure he's good at everything, but my real take, my real sort of insight here is what, in terms of what I know about how Chengdu operate, they would sooner play off meta than to do that, I think.
I don't think it's likely. I think it's a thing, though. I think it's a possibility that Leave, if Zarya becomes a like very strong tank and is like a necessity, I think
Zarya would have to be OP. She would have to be unbelievably
Yeah,
good.
I'm not saying it's like a likely situation. I'm saying they do have this opportunity in their back pocket because of the fact that Leave can play it, which I think that like I think there are a couple of DPS who can do that just because of goats and like stuff like that.
Yep.
I think the best thing about Gaga was that Gaga was good at every main tank. I think he's good at literally every main tank that's exists right now, so they can cover that. Off tank is something that I think is going to be a struggle potential for him.
Can I just say, if what you're saying is so, here's the situation that gets painted in my mind. For that to happen, Zarya would have to be the most important here in the meta. So important that your best player needs to be on the Zarya, similar to where it was in Goats, where like your Zarya player had to be phenomenal. But if that was the case, then everybody would be putting their DPS on the Zarya. Proper would be playing Zarya on the Shock as well.
Well, did he play during Goats or?
He did play Zarya during Goats.
Yeah,
all those guys, all those DPS, Decay would be back on Zarya. Like every DPS, that wouldn't be like that would just be normal. I don't know. That to me, that wouldn't be like, oh, we have to fill for this guy because whatever. You know, I don't know if I'm explaining this properly. Basically, what I'm saying is like, for a situation where Leave ends up playing Zarya, it would have to be a Zarya meta where the DPS just plays Zarya anyway.
Yes.
I think it is.
So it wouldn't be a weird
thing. It would be a very Chengdu thing for them to just like throw out some wacky shit and just be like, yo, we can just put. I think it's very unlikely that he ever steps into playing off tank ever. But like, it is something that I think that should be considered should Zarya become incredibly important, that there are DPS they're going to need to potentially play Zarya.
Agreed.
And while Leave is very, like, I think Leave is extremely good, I don't know if losing, I don't know, it would have to be a situation where, like, you're not going to lose as much between having the Pridon Tracer to you would lose to having Gaga on Zarya, which is potentially very not. Like, that's where it would be a decision where I would be like, yeah, you might need to put Leave on Zarya because this shit isn't working out with.
Gaga would have to be. He would have to be real poo on Zarya for that.
He doesn't play any. He hasn't played any. He has not played
because he's never needed.
All the main tanks.
Yeah,
all the main tanks haven't played it.
That's
right. But there are other teams that have. There are other teams that'll just be like, okay, Zarya's meta. Let's put in Space. Let's put in other off tank. Right. There are a lot of teams who can fill that gap. I think Gaga and I think Chinese tanks in general do usually have a very good understanding of how to play the other heroes. So I think, especially like if it's just like, you know, any of the main tanks, I think Chengdu's.
What I'm saying is they all have to learn it anyway. All the current main tanks have to learn it.
Yeah.
It's, I think you'd be surprised. I think you'd be surprised. I don't believe it will be a thing. Some teams will do this anyway. It's probably not going to be a likely thing that you're going to see like, oh yeah, now Space comes in for Zarya and Rhino does this thing. It's definitely more. I shouldn't be using Glads as the example, but I'll just use them because you were saying Space. I'm just saying any team. This is not specific to Glads. It's more efficient to have one tank player be your starting tank, one being the bench player, and your starting tank player plays all the tanks across the board.
Agree.
And they have to learn everything. And so every tank in the league currently having to do that. If you are Piggy, you have to learn the main tanks. If you are, you know, another good example, Kellen has to learn the off tanks as well. Those are teams with only one tank, but even the teams with two tanks, you know, you're more likely this season to see a starting player and a bench player, and that starting player just plays everything. In my opinion, currently is what I have in my mind. And actually, there's a lot of teams that only have one tank. Chengdu only have one tank. Fusion only have one tank. Valiant only have one tank. That's 3 teams already. Smurf on Soul. That's 4.
Valiant don't have a tank.
True.
They have a rumored tank. Houston only have Piggy. And Kellen on New York. That's already 6 teams. It's already Kaluge on San Francisco is 7. False and Titans is 8. 8 teams out of 20 only have one tank on their team currently.
Yeah, I mean, again with Gaga, I think it's just like, I mean, he gets the benefit of just like, I don't think he has to practice any of the other main tanks, so he can just spend the entire time just grinding off tank. I thought, like, based on what I was thinking, it would be more of like, this is the specialist for the off tank. Like, they're gonna go in when like off tanks are meta, and then, you know, swap whenever it just becomes that type of deal. Because
we got to the end of the last season, and it was very clear that, you know, first of all, objectively, the teams that were doing the least amount of substitutions were succeeding. That's not like a hard and fast rule that is always true 100% of the time. But from even, you know, insights into teams and what people are saying, I think I have to be careful about this. I think DP in some of the content has mentioned this as well. Just stuff like doing less substitutions is overall better for your team to build that synergy and to build the trust and to just to I don't know, build the flexibility within your starting lineup rather than rely on a bunch of substitutions.
That's
totally.
That's the thing, though. Like last episode, we said like it's still not a bad thing to have a lot of players on the roster because like you don't want to be in a position where you have to clobber your 6 together and put like nails into the marble. You want to like chisel it out of the marble block, right?
Yeah,
and like
you want to have more to start with to find your 6.
Yes.
To find your starting 5 within your larger group of players. Yeah.
Yeah. So
agreed.
So Gaga's by default their starting tank. He's the only one.
And he's good. I mean, he's very good. He was very good last season whenever he was tank. I think that he was potentially the best ball that we had in the world.
Yes.
Besides Fate, maybe, because Fate had gotten so good. But
I got there. Yeah.
I think Gaga was right there as like best ball player that we had.
I'm ready for a world where Gaga is the best tank in the world.
Yeah, same. I think we'll see, but I think he'll have a better season than I think people expect.
Like that team CC Bloodline, man.
I don't remember seeing across either Contenders or Al any Gaga Ryan. I'm not too sure what he's like on that. And that's mostly because Chengdu didn't play Ryan.
It's like it's in Contenders it was okay. They had to play it for like it's not
because it's not
he played it on LGD when like Ryan was important and it was
right.
It was okay. I think Ryan is the worst out of all. I would
because Asian teams in general don't play less Ryan, and Chengdu in particular don't play Ryan. They just ignore Ryan as much as they can and go anything but Ryan. So depending on how the meta is, if it's a very fluid meta, Chengdu will absolutely force dive tanks and dive heroes. I think they will suffer in like a hard set you must play Ryan meta, like goats. If you're in a very you either play Ryan or you're throwing type of meta, then Chengdu will be in trouble. Maybe.
Yeah.
But
would agree. I think even in that same like kind of perspective, there's definitely like there are avenues where Gaga and Chengdu just like you said, they either force like dive tanks or they do some like weird off tank stuff that I genuinely believe people like Gaga of that class, main tanks coming into vogue post Wrecking Ball, have a different skill set than older main tanks, not in terms of age, but in terms of career length. That should, my opinion, transition better into these roles. So yeah, I think Gaga will have a pretty good season.
Hit up on the supports now. They are the only team in the league that have 4 supports.
True.
It's not uncommon this year to have 3 supports because a lot of teams are banking on double flex plus 1 main. But Chengdu have held on to all 4 of their supports from the last season, and they to what? What do you mean?
To the support. Oh, well, we're just going to sports.
That's what I've already done. Yeah, I'm doing that currently. Kenobi's arrived with us at the support discussion now. 4 supports on this team.
Late.
Yeah, it's all right. There's extra buses at all times, late into the night. 2 main supports, 2 flex supports, who Chengdu last year even regularly changed up. You know, it wasn't. It was mostly, I would say, you'd have to say by default was Monkey Velto as the starters.
Yeah.
Then Nisha, Faraway kind of came in. Nisha got a lot of game time actually. Faraway got minimal game time, but still received a fair amount.
Velto was catching up with Attack on Titan.
Towards the end for sure, or something. It's probably one of the most unique support lines in that any other team would just play 2 players and the third guy you'd never see if you had 3 supports. Here you had 4 supports, and they were regularly, liberally being swapped in and out across the season, and they've kept all 4 supports. Now we know, obviously, based on the Halo report, that at least 2 of the supports are likely gone, but I mean, let's just consider that if they did have 4. I mean, we can consider both variations. If they do still have 4, what does that mean? How do we like the support line with 4 players? I mean, is it just a repeat of last year where you just swap people in and out?
I think it's like a 2-2 thing where they just swap the pairs. Okay.
It's still mad.
But they weren't even locked in pairs. They weren't even locked pairs. We had Nisha Monk, you had Faraway, Yveltal, We've seen all variations.
Mostly it was though. Most of the time it was Faraway Nisha, and it was Velta Monk.
Yeah, I would say so. But they weren't scared of even swapping.
Yeah, they would. I mean, there were times where they would, but I think going into, if it was 2, they're gonna just pick like either one of the pairs and then.
Unlikely. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. In general, I think they really can't go wrong. You really have to like break out the Marine MREs and your Crayola crayons to really fuck this one up. Yeah, I think overall, I'd like to see either pair or all 4. I don't really see a massive downside either way for Chengdu to waltz into Overwatch 2 with. I like either one. Cool with either.
I think that's the biggest redundancy, right? Like you don't need Nisha and Yveltal on the same team. Like you decide basically. Like I think Yveltal, you can say, is probably the better player, even maybe not by much. But like he's also the more problematic player, so you now have to like weigh that against each other. Maybe he had his like moment of clarity that he can't do that shit anymore. Last season, after being publicly called out, no idea, but you don't need both of those players at the same time, right?
Yep.
So I don't hate that. I think the double flex support always makes sense, especially because Kenobi, how confident would you be in Yveltal picking up a flex support?
Very low.
Yeah. So I think
he's a nuts Lucio player, but I mean, maybe Zen would be like the thing I'd feel the most confident, because it feels like that's the one that people, if you're a main support, you can, like Zen seems to be the other one. Sometimes they'll play in terms of flex supports. Yeah. I think in a perfect world, they get rid of Yveltal, Nisha, and they keep like Faraway and Monk, because I think they're both very, very good. Both have their heroes that I think they're better than the other one at. Like I think that Faraway Zen is really, really good. And because I remember in Gauntlet, like he was consistently the best Zenyatta that we had, and I mean like in Korea too. Like he was 1v1ing proper on Tracer. Like that's how good he was during Gauntlet. And so like losing him would be unfortunate. I think Monk though on the Ana is like I don't know what Ana looks like. Monk's Ana is fucking disgusting. I think it's really good. And I think if you switch them onto like the other like hero, where it's like if you put Faraway on Ana, if you put Monk on Zen, like it's still fine. But those are like the 2 heroes that's like, which one do you think is probably going to be more important going forward that you probably keep on?
Just to be clear, Monk didn't, Faraway didn't play against Proper at all, because Proper wasn't in the Gauntlet.
Oh, sorry. Yes. It was the Genji Tracer.
Stalker.
There we
Stalker
go.
then.
Yeah. Sorry.
Which the community, shame on you, rated very lowly. So shame on you indeed. You'll see. Yeah. So very strong support line. If all cylinders are firing and people aren't going to bed in scrims and doing other shit in scrims that they shouldn't be doing, we're assuming we're like peak Chengdu back in, I don't know, Countdown Cup, they were peaking pretty hard. Summer Showdown as well, they were quite strong. The support line, one of the best in the world. Yveltal, when I looked at the Brig, when he was playing against Lip, he shut down Lip Sombra so hard in that Summer Showdown winners bracket final. Still, I think, one of the best games of last year. People overlook it because it's not a grand finals, but guys, I mean, it really was one of the best series of all last year. Simply, it doesn't have to be a finals match. It can, winners bracket game, very important. 2 of the best dive teams in the world, the 2 best ball Sombra Tracer teams in the world going at it, and you're just seeing the highest level gameplay. And I think that was the best of Yveltal Brig I've ever seen. It was so good that at that exact moment in time, I thought it was the best Brig in the world. At that exact moment in time, obviously, that's a peak, and you can't always play at your peak unless your name is Lee Jae-gon. Looking at the rest of the Chengdu, this support line, in theory, is really good. When I look at it in comparison to the other support lines, I'm trying to see who's do I like more. I still think I'd rather take Lee Jae-gon Izayaki as a 2-piece over anybody. I mean, that's just an easy choice.
In Shanghai is just like they're all.
But beyond that, I think I'd take the Chengdu backline over anyone else's. I'm not seeing that many other in the Eastern Division anyway. I'm not going to talk about NA just
in
yet.
the East for sure. I think they're the best at the current.
Yeah.
Besides, Lee Jaegong is a Yaki. I don't think anyone has the same.
No, I don't think anyone else has a better support line than Chengdu. And I think that would be true even if they only had 2 players instead of 4 in that support line.
I'd agree.
Yep. Same.
Joe's right. They can't really go wrong.
You'd have to like actually pull names out of a hat or throw fucking darts at a board and end up with like
Nisha.
You're cutting both your flex supports.
Yeah, like, Nisha Yveltal is worst case scenario somehow if that's how we do this.
How the tables are turned. You know, last year preseason, Nisha gets signed. It was like, what the fuck? Why would Illusion be on a team? Why didn't they sign
True.
Dude. Okay, I mean, what he did, he got like an identity change, right? Where he's just like he left the Illusion stuff behind him, you know. New
Thank
identity.
God. He leveled up. He evolved.
He cleansed himself of Illusion from T1W.
It was just an illusion. It was a mirage, right?
Okay, let's rank the teams. Kenobi, you kind of already did this at the start. You cheated, so you learn the rules now. We don't rank until the end.
Oh,
just give us your ranking. Where do you think this team will place in terms of
very easily a second place
in the Eastern Division?
In the Eastern Division, in World 5th, top 5.
Like 5 out of the number 5 out of the top 5.
Yeah, number 5 out of 5, the 5th one.
Just curious, who are your 4 above them then? And not in any particular order, just one of them.
Shanghai, Dallas. Atlanta. Who? Oh, Atlanta. And then
I don't know what your 4th would be.
Glads, I think, was my 4th.
No, you were very slow. I was like, I was waiting for the Glads the whole time.
Yeah,
who, by the way, I'm just gonna let you all know. Glads are picking up leave. No, I don't know. They have the money to that.
They would be. Yeah.
They would be.
They
have.
Yo,
they both have the money.
Why would we play the season if they have leave Kepster, man? There's no point.
They both have the money to, and they're both like, fuck it, we'll do it. And you're just, why not? Just pull the checkbook out. He's available. Got the SoFi Stadium. Got infinite Cronky money. Fuck it. Get the MVP. Put him next to Kevster. Just see what happens, you know.
Totally.
That would be poggers.
Would that be the biggest trade in Overwatch League history?
Yeah. What? Yeah. What? Getting the MVP?
Yeah, probably getting MVP across regions and probably not having him.
Of a pandemic.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest trade.
Yeah.
Ooh,
okay, who's next?
Big topic.
Who's next?
You want to go?
Sure.
I kind of want to leak. Let me quickly leak. That could have not been that. There's a universe where that would have not been the biggest transfer in some senses that Glads would have made that season.
Very good. What a leak.
We get it. They were going after profit. We understand. I know.
Exactly. Yes. Same brain cell. Same brain cell.
Higher market value.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, so I know who you're talking about. Anyway, back to Chengdu. So I think this is I would have said they're above Seoul for me, but below Shanghai still, which does put them second in the Eastern Division for me. I'd probably have them as high as top 3 in the world. Not even just 5.
I think they can. I think they can be right behind. They can be right behind Shanghai.
If this team, we don't have a bad meta for Gaga, and this team is allowed to stay together in its current form, and they don't lose Leave, and Leave changes his name to Stay, then this team is really fucking good. They've literally upgraded from last year, and yeah, I mean the Chengdu were already like really pushing the envelope last year. I can only imagine them doing so. The only question mark is obviously the coaching, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, who knows? But post roster implosion, I don't know anymore. But pre roster implosion, looking at this roster,
top 5, baby.
top two in APAC, top 3 in the world. Even that's how highly I'd rate them.
I think top 3 APAC.
Ooh.
You think top 3 APAC?
I'm interested to hear yours because I'm just going to echo a lot of shit.
As in, you think they're third, or you think there's a likelihood that they could be third?
They're third.
Just again, their roster hasn't imploded yet in our magical world.
Yeah.
They still have everybody.
Okay, who? Okay, Who's
There's only one answer.
I already know who it is.
So
and if you
If
say
this is
Seoul,
Yiska
I'm
we're talking
gonna
about.
fly to Germany
Let me
now.
Get to
Consider who
fucking at
Yiska's-
the airport, my friend.
Consider who Yiska's favorite player is and what team his favorite player plays on.
Buying a ticket
True.
right now.
Also Scrimbucks. But
It doesn't have unique thoughts. Can't think.
no, it's Soul. It's of course fucking Soul, bro.
Oh yeah. Okay. Whatever.
I mean, it very like I
Hey,
don't
yo,
hate
real quick.
Go ahead.
Yiska, if you cash in your scrim bucks, do you get profit? Do you make profit?
Oh, God.
Yes.
Certainly,
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. It's been a real good one.
That's my time, everybody.
I've had a lot of fun. I talked about Chengdu. That's I'm all good.
All you were here to do. All you were here to do.
It's Apex Season 4 Grind Finals against Runaway all over again, my friends.
All right.
And then where in the world? Top 3 in APAC, and where do you think they'd be in the world?
Yeah.
Oh.
If their roster stays.
Sixth, maybe 5th.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not that mad at that.
Very dejected. No, okay.
I thought you would have learned after
Okay.
last season, but like I guess I just how many times do you have to teach you this lesson, old man?
What?
It's just-
Wait. I thought you're repeating my talking points from the season where they sucked, where they didn't have Ray. What gives?
I mean, because Dokebi's not on the team.
Right.
We have an actual coach now.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see.
Oh, Yiska
And
knows
before leave
Dokebi's
coaches.
coming back. Dokebi's coming back. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
like,
yeah,
he's
then-
like,
then
there's
the
a few.
team's fully done.
He's like, there's a few vacancies in the coaching staff. You know, Jay Field's gone. Creed's probably about to be gone. I might just step in. You know, he's back in.
Yeah, he can step back to fucking Rainbow Six. I don't want him in this
I see
team.
it in Rainbow Six.
Well, no, I mean that's
yeah,
that's
I
where
get it. I
Dokebi
get it.
comes
Yeah,
from.
I get it. It went over my head and then I caught it. All right. Chengdu for me, I agree with AVRL in terms of like ranges. I think there is a world where I can put them like confidently like top 3 in the world. I'm more confident putting them top 2 in APAC. And yeah, I would say anywhere from like 3 to 5th or 6th in the world is probably more likely. I have them currently in 5th, but that is a big caveat that I'm waiting to kind of cement myself. So
Yeah,
we will see.
Redditors
But
don't annihilate us for.
I mean, we're kind of speaking into the void at this point. You know, they're going to get your pitchforks. You know what to do with them. So it is what it is.
You know
point.
what
Alright.
my problem with saying 6th is?
Something about woeful.
No, that-
blah, 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 Scrimbucks.
Once again, I have like it's every year, bro, that I
What?
think NA is good, and then it's just
Yeah, I know.
like fuck. I deluded
They're not.
myself into thinking NA is good again.
Oh, that's some NA Andy thinking there.
Yeah, they're
That's what
gonna-
It's
they're
just
gonna-
nuts from a European.
They're gonna walk into some weird comp like ball comp where they just don't know how to play it and they're just gonna get fried.
They're gonna run their scrims purely on Rhine garbage, and then they're gonna get to dive stuff, and they're gonna be like, me not know how to play dive very well.
Yeah.
So
But you're,
Jeej.
You're a real EU Edward over there. Hey, Yiska?
You Edward.
Yeah.
Just
Edward.
No, definitely not EU
cool.
this season, my friends.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
so that is Chengdu. I mean, hopeful that they can keep everything together in some sort of fashion. As I said at the start of this, if they even just keep, 6 players plus leave, 3 DPS, Gaga, 2 supports, including leave, I think their season could still be okay.
Yeah.
I don't feel as great about it, but no, I actually would still feel okay with that. Losing 2 coaches does suck, though. That's kind of rough.
Yeah.
Really hoping for the best for a squad like Chengdu. Hard to rate them right now. So again, don't be one of those cringe dudes on the internet like, oh, Tactical Crouch said they'd be as high as top 3. It's like, yo, okay, we don't even know what their roster looks like. We don't know what the whole situation looks like. Can't rate them off anything except what we do know, which is what is official. So that's what this is about. So don't be one of those dickheads later on. Thanks to you for watching the Chengdu preview.